Hello there, ladies, gentlemen and unicorns. Welcome to another stream. Thank you so much for dropping by on this very mellow Sunday evening, morning, afternoon, Monday even. No matter where you are in the world, thank you so much for making time for me in your browser tab or on your device of choice. So how are you doing? How was your week? Mine was a bit stressful, so I didn't continue with my little programming prototype from last time. So this is where we will pick up today, I thought. And before that, I will just give a short overview on what happened in the last stream. And before that, I want to try to explain the rules again, because otherwise it might not make a lot of sense what I'm programming if you don't know where this is leading to. So Commander Stitch says, very chilling. Thank you so much for dropping by, Commander Stitch. Yes, so far I think maybe the music is a bit too loud on my end. Please let me know if the music is too loud on your end as well. In my first stream I noticed that it was distractingly loud, so please, it's okay if you tell me to switch off the music entirely. And Frank subscribed at tier 1. Thank you so much for your renewing your subscription. This is very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Half a year, exactly. My God, am I on Twitch for that long? And apparently I am. Before that, as some of you know, I started on YouTube, but then got this Twitch affiliation thingy going. And so now I'm here on Twitch, which is also good. I don't have any preference. Usually for me, YouTube was just my number one to go to, but Twitch just has more tools and is more fun to customize. And I was also thinking about having some sort of bots bot or just a derivative of a bot spot in my chat, because I've noticed this in other Twitch channels where the bot essentially sometimes every 10 minutes or so comes to life and replaces a couple of words with the word butts in the chat, and sometimes this is just hilarious. It's like Cards Against Humanity but with butts, and always gets a chuckle out of me. But yeah, I'm not sure about that at this point. Maybe I will code up something else where it just goes unicorn or sparkle or something, which would be more in tune with this channel. So right on, let me check my notes here, and my notes say it's going to be cloudy tomorrow, so thank you, notes, very, very helpful. And yeah, Frank has a sip of water. Exactly, when I say the word unicorn, let's all have a sip of water, because it's fun and healthy to stay hydrated, especially for me. I had tank stop coffee today, and it was as bad as you could imagine, but I'm just dying to get out and have some sort of cafe experience. So this was just filling up my car and also getting a coffee from the tank stop. And it's not the same beans, it's not the same milk, it's not the same cup, so that's not too good. Lady Miss Cliff says, I'm gonna skip on the drinking game for now. I have a blizzard that I'm enjoying immensely. Oh, it's snowing, or are you talking about, is this just a way of saying you're playing World of Warcraft instead? But my God, blizzard, that sounds amazing. Right now, what we have here, the poor excuse for winter. We had some snow 2 or 3 weeks ago, but right now it's just drizzling outside, so it's just rainy and cold, so not really a winter here. So enjoy your blizzard. It's a treat from a place called Dairy Queen. Okay, this sounds amazing. Blizzard from a place called Dairy Queen. I imagine it like this a huge cup with all sorts of milky ice cream and caramel fudge and stuff like that. Oh my God, now I want something like that. As you can tell, I didn't have a lot of eats today. So last time I realized when I was streaming without having something to keep up my blood sugar, it got a little bit hard towards the end. And so for this stream, I have this very special emergency treat for me. It's a Kinder bar. And for those who don't know, Kinder means just children in German. And we always joke about that it's made of children. So there you go. A blizzard is soft serve ice cream with some Reese peanut butter cups in it. Okay, now I want some of that. And Frank says there's some snow here today, and this is something unusual. I think if I recall correctly, Frank, you're from the Netherlands. Am I correct, or am I mistaken? Just something northern, right? So yeah, soft peanut butter. It's Belgium, right? Belgium. So not far away from the Netherlands. Then, do you get a lot of snow? From what I can remember, is that people from the Netherlands say that it hardly snows there because with the entire thing, everything is flat and below sea level. So, but the non-snowy part of Belgium. Oh, okay. So this sucks. And Lady Miss Liv says, "You're invited to come to Canada. I'll treat you to one." Oh my God. Oh, Canada. Maybe pour some maple syrup on top of it. What I've come to enjoy quite a bit is just the soft serve, yeah, milk ice cream, but with a helping of maple syrup on top. It's just amazing. It's nutty and sweet. It got this nice toffee flavor, but it's also it's still not as syrupy. Either way, this is what I found out like 3 weeks ago or so, just to have maple syrup on everything. So this is for the Canada thing. Not a lot, no, maybe a few days per year, says Frank, with some outliers, and then not a lot of snow on those days. Yeah, I'm living in Salzburg, which is in the northern parts of the Alps. So usually I get a lot of snow, but it used to get a lot of snow here. But yeah, thanks to climate change and global warming and so on, it's less and less snow each year. But still, sometimes we get a lot of snow in a very short amount of time, and it's fun driving on snow covered roads, and everyone is just going like this when you come to a curve. Everyone is like. "Ah." Because yeah, when you're driving on snow, it's like having someone in the back seat. You have your granny on the back seat, and she's just having a huge bowl of gravy, which is filled right up to the rim. And yeah, you don't want to upset her because she's wearing her new white dress to service. Right, cool. So let me switch over this time. This time I probably won't forget to switch over to the screen. Right. So last time. Let me just compile this, what we had last time. For those who are new to this, probably not a lot of you who are new to this. This is the current state of my game. As you can see, it looks incredibly complicated, but so far it's not. The big yellow numbers, those are the resource fields, and the blue fields are the clue fields. This is all you need to know. Because right now, last time, what we did was code up the entire array to hold this game board. And also thanks to everyone who's in the chat, Lady Mistleaf especially, for figuring out how to have this checkerboard fashion. Because it's not every other tile, it's every other, but when you start on a line with when the whole width is odd or even, it makes a difference with what tile you start. So this was the biggest struggle that I had last time, was getting everything laid out in a checkerboard. And yeah, the numbers are just random numbers from 1 to 3. And the white numbers are just the numbers of the instances, the instance IDs. So this is just to make sure that each clue holds all its neighboring tiles in its own parameters, in its own, is it parameters? Arguments? I always get this wrong. In the variables that are within the instance. As we can see here, which is important right now, what I didn't code so far is all the special cases. I want the clues to wrap around. So essentially this 11 is this one, and this 4 is this 4, which is good, but 99 means, yeah, there is just nothing here in this array because it's out of bounds. But instead we want to have this 10 here. And same goes for the vertical clues. So right now there is a nothing, no field referenced here vertically, but it should actually be this 61 field on this clue here. So this is what we're coding up next. And quick refresher on the rules of the game. So essentially, this is this is my horrible little prototype. So far the game is you got a couple of resources here. I called them blubbles last time. Haven't come up with a better name thus far. Excuse me. So essentially the game board is alternatively divided up between clues and resources can be either positive or negative. So when you have a +2, you get 2 blobbles here. If you get a +-, you lose 1 blobble up here. So you spend those resources by opening up clue fields, and a clue could look like this. This one here says, let me zoom in a bit more. This one here says 1/3, and the numbers indicate the resource fields. So it means there is a resource of 1 and a resource of 3 here. But as I said before, it's depending on the sign, it's either plus or minus, and the clue doesn't tell you which one is which. But you always know that on one side is a plus and on the other side of the clue is a minus of something. But you have to figure out which one it is, because when you want to open something, you say, with this clue I want to open one of those 2 fields. And in this case I decide to open the 3. In this case it would be a +3, but the rule is that the opposing field on this side is locked up. So if I were unlucky and this would have been a -3 and I want the +1, yeah, tough luck, I can't get it because it's now locked, because I used this clue to open up this resource field and it backfired and the other side just locks. So what makes this interesting, hopefully, the interesting part is that you can spend multiple clues to make an educated guess or to open up a field. For in this case, we have 1 next to 4. So we know that this one must be a 1 and this must be a 4. But I mean, this stage, the field here, as it is shown here, is already opened. But we wouldn't know whether this was a +1 or a -1. But we would really enjoy it if we could pick the +4 resource field. So instead of deciding and just having a luck-based decision, instead I open up this clue down here, and I was also lucky that the clue was 1/3, which means it's a vertical clue, because clues can either be vertical, as in this case where it says 1/3, or horizontal, in this case where it says 3 next to 2, or this one here that says either or. So this 1 next to 5 is either a 1 next to 5 or 1/5. So this is a little bit ambiguous with the clue. So yeah, you also have to spend some more clues, otherwise it would be maybe a bit too simple. But I don't know, this is why we're coding up this prototype and find out how fun this actually is in the game. So basically is now we've opened up this clue here, so it says 1/3. And 1/3 is less, so whether this is a -1 or a +1, when we open it up using this clue and locking whatever is on this side, we already know that this must be a 4. Yeah, this we already know. Then we open up this field and it's a -1. And okay, we take a hit to our blobbles, but then without using up this clue and locking either side on this clue, we can use it to open up this +4, which would lock the one that we already have opened. So it's not a big problem if we close something or lock up something that we've already consumed. Pickalick90 says, oh my, it's a game dev alchemy happens out there again. Yeah, I wouldn't say alchemy, because the goal of alchemy is making gold out of other not as precious materials, and I don't think that we'll be making gold. So I might be making out different kinds of stone, of rock, of gravel, essentially. But yeah, here we are. So I hope it will at least amount to something. And unicorn, there we go. Cheers. By the way, let's try again here in the chat. If I say !unicorn. Yes, MooBot still works. Beautiful. Right, so again, just for us that we're on the same page, blue is a clue because it rhymes, and orange is a resource because nothing rhymes with orange. It's a resource field. So here in Game Maker, again, if I press F5, what we get is just a randomized playing field. Where the clues currently are just referencing its neighbors. So it's not actually a clue, it's just a debugging view to know that, yeah, every neighbor has or every resource is registered there in the clues. Right, and as for the programming, it's very quick. I have 2 rooms, essentially. Just room number 1 here is init, where it has this object here, which is it's an instance of the object control in it. So essentially this just initializes the game, and what happens here in it, not a lot, it just randomizes the seed of the random number generator and goes to the next room and destroys itself, which means it destroys its own instance, the initializing object to initialize everything. Right. So here we are in RM game, the game room. You can see it's just gray, and it also got this just one tiny instance up here, which also doesn't have a sprite, and this is an instance of the object control board. So this is essentially my singleton that controls the entire board. So it only has here a creation event right now. So what it does, it just sets up the board. You can say here how many tiles it should span across and how high it should be. Then just the tiles count. Essentially all you do, this was not what I wanted. Essentially all you configure is just how big you want to have the board, and the rest it's figured out itself. It takes here for the tile width just, right now it's hard coded, the sprite width and height of the tiles, and then just does essentially just distributes them on the board, and essentially distributing resources and clues in a checkerboard fashion. This is what happens here. Then assigns resource values for each type of each tile of type resource, and then it registers the neighbors of a clue, and that's it. It doesn't register all of them as we've seen before, so all the special cases are still here marked as to do. Right. Lady Miss Liv says, question, what happened to your last Unity 3D project you were working on? I'm still working on it, but not full time right now. I still got it and I still want to continue with it, but right now I just I kind of lost interest along the way because so many things were happening, and I was really looking forward to making something where it's more of a gameplay mechanics based game. So this is why I'm currently more interested in getting this prototype sorted out, but by all means it's not abandoned, it's not forgotten. It's just that I've run into a roadblock at some point that wasn't really a roadblock, where I just thought, oh my god, I need to code a bit more to optimize things. So okay, this is very abstract. So essentially with my Unity game, where I stopped programming was when I had I have the inventory view where you can rotate all the items that you have in your inventory, and of course you have the main camera view where you can see behind the inventory still where you are in the game level. So I'm rendering everything twice, and I thought, my god, this is probably very, very expensive because you got two cameras on top of each other. Instead, what I wanted to do is just render the background into a buffer as a texture, just this one frame, so I don't have to update the camera anymore. And then over on top of it, I render the inventory. And for some reason, I thought I can do this, probably cannot do this in an afternoon, and this is where I stopped, essentially. But I still want to keep working on it. And the good thing about this is the Unity prototype, that is what is working is the very bare bones basic flow chart. It's not a flow chart, but the programming flow of FMV videos, where you just have a video clip playing and then it waits for you, where you have to set the next thing that's going to happen or make a decision or pick an option from the dialogue, and then the next clip would play. And this is implemented via scriptable objects, and that works already. The project is on the backup tape, says Frank, and yes, of course it is, but it's also still in my Dropbox, so I can open it up on every time I want, update it to the newest Unity, and see what has been breaking there. Okay, just curious, it's nice to take a break. If you stay stuck on something that is frustrating, you will just hate the idea in the end. Exactly, and this is why I thought I really should cut myself some slack, and it's okay to start a new project. I mean, the old one is neither forgotten nor abandoned. I just want to take a break from it, and at least I know that I can always come back to it. And usually this happens with older projects where I'm waking up completely inspired to go back and keep working on an old idea. And it's always, this is why it's still in my Dropbox folder, that I can, whenever should the inspiration arise, then I can just pop back into it. Switching projects, how relatable. Yeah, I mean, we've all been there, right? Isn't there hundreds of memes out there with starting a new pet project and all the other pet projects behind you? It's like a huge pile of decaying house plants, and they're, oh look, this is my new pet project, and it's the best project and the most interesting project until I've come up with the next prototype that's never going to be finished. Right, so we want to finish this. And Frank says, today I didn't work on something I thought of yesterday. Cool, so you're already in the procrastination game, so I think you're doing things right there. And Lady Misleaf says, I mean, don't judge. I know some people like to start new projects, hides folder of abandoned prototypes. Yeah, I think the abandoned prototypes folder, I mean, honestly, is probably the biggest folder in all. I mean, rarely it is that your current project is the biggest project you're working on. And if it is, it's bound to become your pet project or the second to last project. Just give it a week. On the other hand, I made some progress in GeoGuessr, says Frank. Please help me with GeoGuessr. Never heard of it. Is this a game where it just drops you on Google Maps somewhere on the world, but doesn't tell you where you are, and you have to figure out where on the world you are just from looking at the landscape and signs and so on? Right. Okay. So I have to recompile it. Oh yes, that's the one. Okay. Cool. Right, okay, so next up is figuring out all the special cases that things just wrap around here. Because the same thing is happening here on the lower tiles. And this one here also doesn't seem to work, I think, because here it says on the right fringes, on the right border here, that the one that is to the right of it, which actually should wrap around and should read 11, but essentially it says it's 19, which is this tile here, and this can't be correct because this one is neither on the same row nor is it of the same type. Blue is a clue and not orange, and it should only reference resource fields. So essentially we have just problems here all along the borders. And right, this is something I want to tackle right now. Okay, so this is the code. Again, if you're new to this, this is a game maker language, GML, and it's as object-based as the first Doom is real 3D. It looks a lot like it's object-based, but it's not yet, still kinda, so yeah. Why does your grid start at 3, says Lady Mistleaf. Let me check it again. This one here, right? 3, because it's those are the numbers that GameMaker uses for instances. So essentially each time you create a new instance, it starts with a new number, and the first instance that I create is the initializing object, which would be 1. The next instance I create is 2, that is the game control or the board control, and 3 would be this first item here. So it's not actually an ID that I give or hand out by myself. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could add for each tile, also give it an ID in terms in reference to the board and not just in terms of game maker. Yeah, I think this would make sense. And Frank is working on getting gold on all the countries in Explorer mode. There's 60 of those. Presumably more will be added at some point. 1 to go. This is amazing. Usually I have really big problems when I'm even in Middle Europe or Central Europe. I have a hard time figuring out, could this be, is this Slovenia, is this Slovakia, is this Poland? I don't know. Usually I just go by the number of accents in the town signs. Cool. Okay, so yeah, let's do this. When we create the board, we just use the index of the array essentially as our ID number that we want to use it, because those ID numbers there in GameMaker, if you recall from last time, those aren't just 04, 05, 06, but they are 100,000 004 and so on. And all I did was clip this value. Let me quickly show you here. Oh no, this was the sprite. Instead, I want to go to the object, the tile object. So when we create a tile object, we just say it could be a type and which neighbors it has, and the neighbors are held neighbors are held in an array. Lady Misliff says, well, you could work for the top. If it's smaller than 3, figure out how much smaller, then subtract the difference from the max ID of the last time. It should give you the tile below the last tile. Right, but yeah, I'm not too happy about this, because maybe when the game is, when I work more with the game, maybe I create also concurrently some user interface instances while the board is being created concurrently. Sometimes GameMaker reuses instance IDs when it does some garbage collection and so on. So yeah, I really don't want to rely too much upon the instance IDs for numbers, or for using them as IDs myself. I just use the array index while we're creating it. I think this should be the fastest. And you know what also would make sense, perhaps, if each tile has a reference to the board, to the game object that holds the information about the board. Maybe it would be interesting. Right, so let's say let's just call it array ID. Well, no, this is misleading. This would be the ID of the array. X and Y position of the tile in the grid then. This might also be interesting if I store this with each tile. I'm not quite sure about that, but it could come in handy perhaps later. So yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do this. So how should I call this? ID index, array index, ID in board. No, I want it to be very short. I can't use ID because, as you can see here, it's green, and this means it's a built-in value that I can't change. I can only read but not write, because this is the instance ID. I call it just tile ID. And I start here at 0 or -1. Tile ID, yeah, thank you. And tile X or board tile, tile board, X in board, board X, board tile X, board tile X, and board tile Y. And when I initialize it by -1 and I read it and it's less than 0, I know that something must have happened. It's wrong in some way. Right, so when I create here something and array board distributing resources and clues, this is not where it happens, right here. Instance, there I create a new instance. All right, this is what I wanted to do, and just call it owner board. Owner board, does this make sense? And is just no one. By the way, no one, if I recall correctly, is also a built-in variable, but it doesn't show up as one. None also. Because no one is, I think in GameMaker it defaults to -1, but you know what, I really should figure this out. Use the online manual. Right, where's the online manual? Let me open it up there, that you can also see it on the screen. Instance keywords, self, other, all, no one. Okay, so no instances at all, and this is a value of -4. So that when something is no one equals to -4, that we know essentially it's you can't null something in GameMaker, so this is why I usually use no one. You also get no one back as a value when you try to check for, let's say, collisions, and you have no collision, you have a collision with no one, which is -4. So right, so the owner board is no one, and in the step event we can actually say if owner board equals no one, then we throw an error or show debug message no owner in tile plus ID, or string, not string, string ID. I wrote string again. Right, so just to make sure that when I'm forgetting something, that it just shouts. It's Poor man's assertion. Cursor view, is there no array or only 1D? It's a 1D array because I don't need it two-dimensional, I figured. Right, so we got here the tile ID, the board. I just copy over this part here. And this is when I'm creating the array. And now here I create this new variable that is instance, and this holds the reference to the instance I just created. And in GameMaker I can also just reference it and use the dot as you would in pretty much all other programming languages such as C and C#. But you could also say with instance I want to do something, and then it switches essentially the scope that everything is on this instance. But personally I don't like this instance very much, or to write it with instance. Essentially I just go that I instantly know when something is referred to instance. I just write it like that. So right, we create this new instance, and in the board at this index I we store a reference to this instance. So the tile ID of this instance is I of the current array that we're writing. The board tile X right here is the starting X, the floored board tiles. Oh my god, this is again the problem that I had last time, where I just used a number of variables, but right now we're calculating it on the fly essentially, and this is what's happening here. And the owner board is ID, because the ID of this instance here is we're here in the object control board. So everything should have the owner, a reference to the owning board. Right, Frank says, I think the with X already existed in Pascal. I might be wrong though, it's been a long time since I used Pascal. Yeah, it faintly, I recall it from somewhere else, but I'm not sure if it was Pascal, but I just tried out Turbo Pascal once in high school in one computer course for one lesson, so don't quote me on that. So the board tile X, you know what? I do it very, very easily and just say starting X and current Y. I just create here some temporary variables. I should try not to speak as fast, not talk as fast. And I just call it tile X and tile Y. And here tile X plus plus, or you know what, I can already do this as a check. So if I do this very simply, you could also use a modulo here as we did last time, or as we did here with the board tiles width. Essentially I'm just recreating what we've used here, but much easier to read for me, because with this one here I already have to do some mental gymnastics to figure out what is going on here. So I do this very simply. So tile, if tile, should we? Now we use a decrement, or we increment it after the fact. If tile plus plus is greater or equal or greater to the board width, board tiles width, then tile Y plus plus and tile X equals 0. And as you can see, sometimes I'm using semicolons, sometimes not. This is really something that is, yeah, this is wrong here. This looks better. That is something that is not enforced with GameMaker language, but I'm used to it, especially when I'm coming from Java or C#. But then I forget about it half the times, as you can see probably here. Well, actually, yeah, you can see. Apparently not. Apparently I pretty much terminate every line with a semicolon. This won't last long. Calculating the same thing in two ways, says Cursiboo. Yes, exactly. But for one thing, this is a prototype, and the other thing is this code is not being run every second, and even if it were, or each frame 60 times a second, so it's not that big of a problem. And instead I could use it on top of here and just have a very simple, just counting up instead of using here floor and using more, let's say, elaborate ways to figure out the same value. So essentially this takes up more memory than this, probably, maybe this one does on the stack, but it's much cheaper if you're really about counting CPU cycles, much cheaper than this one here, because this one calls floor, there is a division going on here and another multiplication, and there's a modulo going on and so on, so it might be even faster because it's just adding stuff. But again, of course, it's not as elegant as doing this in one line. Pascal did have the width, says Frank, and could still be older, of course. Probably. We should find out if Fortran does width, but I doubt it, because width sounds like it could be a basic command, so that the language is really trying to be as open as it could be to newcomers such as BASIC and Pascal, so more like learning languages. And I think Fortran would probably instead of using a with statement, you would have to use a mathematical formula, hence the name Fortran, probably. So I think it might have originated maybe in Logo. Maybe in Logo would have a with. But yeah, now I'm just on very thin ice. If it originated with Pascal, that would mean worth came up with. Okay, this is computer science humor. Worth came up with. Right, so essentially, if this code, what I did here, is correct, I'll just comment this out and use this thing here. So starting x plus tile x, not tile e, times tile height, and tile y times tile width. No, the other times tile height. Oh my god, this is the other way around. Why didn't anyone tell me? But since 64 is width and height or either, it didn't matter. So this is current y. No, it's the other. It's the other way around again. Still. So starting current y is starting y. Got this all wrong. So just x and y. The good thing is that I was using for width and height the same values, and for x and y, for the starting x and starting y, also the same values. So it didn't matter, but it's good that we found it out. Niklaus Wirth is Swiss, so it's even closer in sound. Yeah, it's if you pronounce German, it's not Wirth, but it's Niklaus Wirth. And I think there was this one joke about Niklaus Wirth was what's the difference between C++ and Pascal, or what's the difference between you and a programmer from Pascal? And they are given by title and you are passed by value. I think because what it's worth. I completely mangled here now the joke, but it was pretty witty. Americans call him by value and Europeans call him by name. Exactly. Thank you, Frank, for getting this right. It's a great joke, right? Oh my god. Okay, so let's run this and hope that it looks like before. And it almost, look at this, it almost does. Where did I go wrong here? So maybe if it's not equal to the width, but just greater than. And no, it's not it. So if tile x plus plus is greater than the board tile's width. That looks great though, keep it. Yeah, I mean, we could have arbitrary board, I mean, this could work. Why does it have to be in some sort of a rectangle? Maybe it would be interesting if the board could have any shape, essentially. This would be a bit more interesting, but for right now, I just want it to be rectangular, and this works. So tile y plus plus, current y, starting y plus tile y times tile height. This makes sense. Tile x, and first we start with tile x, starting x. This makes sense. We start at 200. tile x times tile width. So the first one should be at 0, but the first one here, we've already incremented this by 1. So let me be very hacky here and start with tile x at -1, so that when the first time we count it up, it's at +1. And look at this, almost looks good. Yeah, I think the problem here is where I'm incrementing tile x, right? So this is not good. Any shape will mess with the wraparound concept, says Frank, and it probably will. And ink at the end, yeah, should probably not do this here. If tile x is greater than tile plus plus, and we do tile x plus plus after we're done with all the calculations and drawing stuff. Looks better a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Why do I have 9 tiles there when I want to have 8? Classical problem, so it's not just bigger, but equal or greater than. And this should fix it. Look at this, fixed it. Good. So I just fixed it. And it only uses a couple of lines more than before. Let's save this. But to me this makes more sense when I really look at it at a glance. Right, and now we can use the board tile X and board tile Y. Just use here, oh no, of course we can't do this. I need to increment tile X as the very last thing here. I'm not a fan of this, because this block here with this tile X belongs together, but otherwise it would make things more messy. I need to have this instance tile pulled up here. No, you know what, I keep it as it is. And just say board tile X and board tile Y. And essentially this should be it. You know what, I could do some debugging there that, for example, the blue, the clues now just print out their ID. Or you know what, pretty much all the tiles could print out their ID. Just for debugging purposes. Object tile. There in the draw event, if type is clue, then I just draw all the neighbors. Let's comment this out and just say if value is not value, set the font color black and draw the text and the value. And the value equals, right, this is the value, of course, only if it's a resource. This makes sense. Yes, it does. If type resource, string delete. Does it make sense though? What is the value? Where is this thing happening here? Value. What is the value? Value equals 0. Something happens with the value, and I think it happens here when I create the board, distributing the resources. And there we go, assigning resource values. So the value is either 1, 2, or 3. Just trying to figure out where to stick my debugging draw command. So if type is clue, if type is resource, right, what happens right now? It should just print out the resource values, right? But still we got here the ID. Right, and this is what happens here, and draw self string ID. Okay, so it's not just if type, it's always just type the string ID, the ID, the clipped ID of the instance ID. Okay, so this works. And now instead of using the instance ID, just ID is, what did I call it? Tile ID, right? Tile ID. There we go. And now it should start at 0 and go all the way to 63, 1, 2, 7, 8. Yes, this looks good. So this works. I'm happy that this works. Cool. Okay, what else do I want to test? You know what? I don't need this ID string. I can just say string of tile ID. This would make things much faster, because now I can comment out this one line. And what I can also now draw is draw text X and Y, and string tile X plus slash plus string tile y. So now let's figure out whether I got the coordinates correctly, and something is tile x and tile y. I called it board tile x and board tile y. Right. Copy, paste, execute. Okay, coordinates 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 7. Okay, so the coordinates work. And just for us a reminder, and I will sing this straight into the camera because I will know that I will get it wrong multiple times now. I need to remember that everything starts at a 0. The array index and also the coordinates. So the first row is row 0 and the first column is column 0. Am I happy with this, or should I, when I'm using coordinates, do I want to start it with 1? Do I want to start it with 1? Do I also want the IDs to start with 1? What else would it start at, says Frank, and yeah, spoken like a real programmer. You always start counting from 0. Yeah, let's keep it at 0. I mean, the array starts at 0, our index numbers start at 0, our coordinates start at 0, everything starts at 0, so let's keep it at 0. Lady Mistcliff says, I would suggest to keep it at 0 so it will help the logic when you switch back to Unity. Yeah, this makes sense. Good, it's settled, thank you so much. Cheers to everyone going for the 0. I'm not a hero, I'm a 0. No, wait, this sounds bad. This didn't come out right. Cool, so now let's take care of all the edge cases there when we register the neighbors of a clue. And I start here with the top neighbor. So first, let's make this in brackets because I probably will need more than one line. So if the board tile is greater than 0 for the top neighbor, otherwise else, let's just say neighbors equals yeah, just something. Let's give it like this and see what happens if I pass it a string where it actually expects a value, and of course it doesn't happen nothing bad happens because I commented it out. So I also don't need this. Maybe I want to keep tile ID. Maybe I want to keep the tile ID and tile neighbor. Of course, now I need the tile ID of everything because I'm not using the trunk ID. Of course, I don't need trunk ID anymore. I just need neighbors, tile ID, tile ID, and same goes here, tile ID. Right. And probably forgot something here. Yeah, of course, yeah, there's one bracket too much. Frank says there's a joke somewhere that says something about people keep arguing about whether arrays indices should start 1 or 0, suggested 0.5 as a compromise, but nobody wanted that. Yeah, this is true. This is what did I do wrong here? What it says here. Got square curly bracket expected, not a curly, what, wait, where are we? So this terminates here, this terminates here, this terminates here, and this terminates, oh yeah, this makes sense. My god, always herd your brackets. Tile ID not set before reading. Tile ID, why is it not set before reading? So okay, what happens here? I want to draw the text. I go to the neighbors, and of course when I don't have a neighbor there, I can't read its tile ID for debugging purposes, right? Because in this case I'm not storing a neighbor, but I'm storing just hashes. Okay, so I wanted to do this for legibility's sake, but essentially it's expecting a value, so I can't just plop in there some arbitrary string. And Cursipo says Dijkstra is a good article on why square bracket 0, n round bracket is best. Okay, maybe should read Dijkstra, but then again I just wait for people to summarize Dijkstra to me because I don't like reading Dijkstra. I would assume that is this one C++ guy, right? No owner in tile. Sorry, I'm just completely lost now. Okay, so right, the top neighbor is so in this case, if I minus board tiles, essentially we just want to say right. I'm not trying to pass an arbitrary string or something. Let's try to get this right. So the top neighbor essentially should be the array board, not I minus the arrayed board tiles, but we are, where are we? We need to count. Let me visualize this. I always have, Dijkstra is long before C++. Really? I always assumed that Dijkstra was this C++ guy. Probably he had a strong influence then on the language. For some reason, please educate me. I've never studied this, as is apparent when I'm just fretting over things like this. Okay, Cursipo clarifies indices are equal or less to 0, and I is less than n, or any natural number, I would assume. Okay, so back in the groove. Okay, right now I keep it as it is because I need something, like I said, visual. And it's create at line 87. So this is the problem here because, yeah, of course I can't. Then array neighbor is just no one, just that it compiles. And of course it does not work because it's not set. Okay, I need to figure this out. I'm easily distracted. And before finishing my programming of this line here, let's just see what Frank wrote. Dijkstra had a strong influence on basically anything in computers these days. Okay, so I should probably investigate a bit more. Dijkstra has a famous graph search algorithm and wrote the goto statement considered harmful. Oh, this guy, right? The goto. He really didn't like. I think Dijkstra was the one who didn't like the entire idea of BASIC, even, right? To teach people in this very friendly language that was not very optimized. Okay, so right. If I want to get the neighbor that's on top, the north of a given tile, I just use the array position that we are in minus the board tiles, right? But if I want to get the last one, what I could do is, you know what? I could also subtract this, the array minus the board tiles, but now we're in the negative. But then I can add the entire, the number of tiles that we have in the board to it. Does this make sense? So I just say board tiles plus, and I also make brackets. I don't need to use brackets for this, but just to make sure that it reads correctly. And to make this even more straightforward, I call it tile amount or tile count. Or I already got tiles count. There we go. Just multiply this with the number of tiles that we have in total. And I think this should work, right? Of course it does not. Tile ID. Tile neighbor south. Okay, so this one doesn't have a south neighbor. Okay, so it's not a problem of this top neighbor thing here. So essentially it's just my debugging thing here. Essentially I need to safeguard here, to put in a safeguard that whenever I read a tile from one position there, you know what, let's only read the top. Let's print out the top tiles, the top neighbors, because this should work now. Okay, look at this. The top neighbor of this tile here, of the first one, is 56, and it's 56. This one here of 2 is 58, it's 58. This of 62 is 62, and so on and so forth. Even on the last row, this is correct. Good. So this one special case we figured out. That will continue like this with the next one. So this is the top neighbor. Frank says, well, go to consider harmful does raise the point that loops are almost equally bad and that you should use recursion. Take it with as many grains of salt as you like. And I would like a popcorn-sized amount of salt, you know, for those big buckets of popcorn you get at the theaters. Oh my god, the theaters. Oh, I miss them so much. Either way, yeah, I mean, a lot of assembly programming is just clever use of gotos. I think the problem with gotos is, from my very uneducated guess, is gotos can be harmful unless you know what you're doing. But I mean, this goes for pretty much anything with programming, right? Anything can be harmful unless you know what you're doing. And Frank says, for some things, recursion is a lot easier to think about. It's often not the most efficient, though. Exactly, yeah. Recursion. I've seen some computer file videos on recursion, and I thought, yeah, it's nice, but in practice, I would hardly use any of those unless I was doing some, I don't know, mathematics where it doesn't matter how long it takes or how much memory it uses up, especially for big calculations. And Lady Miss Liv says, I hated recursion and wondered why anyone would bother until just last week when everything clicked. Yeah, I'm still at the point where I think, why bother? You can use special cases. Just litter the code with special cases. So right, you know what, I don't even need those curly brackets because it's just one-liners, but you never know. I'm keeping them. This is not what I wanted. There we go. This is also not what I wanted. Else. So essentially we have the same thing here, but on the bottom row. So instead of... We'll comment this one out. And again, I need to visualize. This. Okay, so the south neighbors. So of this one, it should be easy. It's just the current I that we are, in this case 11, plus the board width, which is 8, so it's 19. So at this point, we're at 55. And what we want to do essentially is go back up here. So how do we get from 57 to 1? Well, we subtract 56. And how do we arrive at 56? It's the number of tiles between, so essentially it's all the tiles but the last row, right? So I will try this now. And call it, just make a variable here and call it all tiles except last row, because I always like to have long variable names. And just for trying things out, it's the tiles count. My god, this is probably the worst thing that I would have done right now, so I'm not doing this. So it's, what did I use there before? Board tiles width times board tiles height. Board tiles width, board tiles height minus 1. And we put this in brackets because we're not stupid. And of course I need to use this variable. Of course this doesn't work. Abort joke. There we go. So it's I minus all tiles except last row. And are we happy now? So it's 57 and this, oh, of course I'm not printing it, so we won't know, so I'll just draw bottom as well. Let's hope it compiles. Yes, it compiles. Okay, so 49 is correct and 1 is 1. 45 is correct and 3 is 3. 55 is correct and 7 is 7. So we got the wraparound horizontally, vertically. I always mix those up. Got the wraparound working. So a time to pat myself on the shoulder. Ow, this hurts. Oh, I should do more of my exercises. Oh, I'm so tense. I once was doing physiotherapy, and they said it's like what's the translation? It's one of those things you enforce concrete with, rebar bars, I think. Oh, by the way, Frank wrote in the chat, with recursion, sometimes you can actually get away with not solving the problem at all. You just write a function that converts the problem into a similar problem that's a bit smaller, or if the problem is already small enough to be trivial, return the answer. Then, by magic, the problem has been solved. Essentially, you put the computer to good use, you just throw CPU cycles and stack memory at the problem, right? And Lady Miss Lives, if the tile ID is greater than 56. Exactly, yeah, this was the problem, right? So I'm pretty happy with how easily I solved this one. All I need to do is all tiles except last row. I mean, you know what? I want to keep this because it's very speaking, it's very telling. It's a very good variable name, I would say. Okay, so let's do the same thing for the left neighbor, and this should be easier, I hope. Let's make special rule when we're first in a row. Right, so when we are the very first tile and it should wrap around, it should be the tile that's the last tile on the same row. So neighbor width equals array board of the current tile plus tiles width. A board tiles width, right? Let's try this. Of course, also let's show this. Left, fingers crossed, and nope, not set before reading it. Line 108. Line 108. Tile neighbor, if I -1 is greater than 0. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. So if I -1 is greater than 0, which means all the valid things. I'm not talking about things where we're on the edge of something and then it wraps around, which is also wrong. But I will, you know what, I will make a special case there and I say, if I is less than 0, then it should be the board tile width. And it doesn't work. Variable index 3 out of range on neighbors, because it doesn't have a neighbor. Oh, I'm not quite sure why this was left neighbor, bottom neighbor. Okay, so this is the right neighbor. If I is less than 0. Right, this is the is less sign, yeah. It's essentially the reverse of your modulo to detect your rows. What about I equals 0? Well, when I equals 0, we're on the first thing, right? Then board tile width. Yeah, if I equals 0, T neighbors is array board the width, right? But why is this not working? Board tile W, not set before reading it. Oh, did I use something wrong here? Board tiles width. Variable names. Yeah, this looks better, I think. So no, of course, because we're starting from 0. So this is 8 and 8 is here. So it should not be 8. Board tiles width -1. Can't read this, so there, -1. And now this very special case is when we're on the very first thing here. It reads 7 and this is 7. This is good. This one reads 8. This is also correct, but this one reads 15 and 15 is incorrect. So we should also do this when we know that this clue is on the first X. So if I is a modulo, or the modulo of I times board tiles width minus 1, because we're starting to count at 0. Okay, let's find out if this works. Equals 0. Then we're on the row with the first tile, right? And then also copy. It's current I plus the board tiles width minus 1, or we don't probably need minus 1 here, but let's see what the hell is going on here. No, of course, variable index 70 out of range of 64. Yeah, this, of course, this makes sense. So, you know what, I would just put in a safeguard here and say if I is less than 64, just to see something there. And variable index 70 is out of range. Of course, yeah, because I'm trying to count up there and it's not a problem here. That's elsewhere. Lady Miss Liv says, not gonna lie, tile ID grid width, modulo grid width. If I grid tiles grid width equals 0, does this make sense? It does. But T neighbors west array board I plus board tiles width, and this one sometimes is out of bounds. You know what, I will just outcomment this and have a look again at the numbers. Okay, when we are here at 56 and we go up to 53, but it never should land at 54, right? That we have, because 60 is 64, because 64 is already out of bounds. Okay, I need to rethink this. Can you use tile X and tile Y? Right, in this case I can't, because I'm using a different loop there, but I can do the same thing essentially. So tile X and tile Y, and essentially I just copy over this part here. So yeah, then of course it would work easily. Work easily. This is what I'll be doing. So this is the tiles count. Register neighbors of a clue. So again, I'm just resetting those values here. And this is already in the for loop then. Paste. Cool. Okay, so we got the current tile X. Current X is starting X plus the tile width. Yeah, this makes sense. The current X. I just want to make sure that current X is not at a value that we've written before. That it's maybe already taking in, or currently at the position that's where we would just continue drawing the board, where we already stopped the last time. Because Cursibus says the tile instances know their X and Y's too, right? So essentially at this point I don't really need this. Of course this makes sense. So then maybe this could be a bit expensive if I'm querying all the tiles, but yeah, it runs just once. So at this point, say I equals, okay, so this is the usual case. Then we override the first one if I equals 0 with a special case, and now we get where tile X equals T neighbors. No, this I'm reading the neighbors, so I'm reading T and not its neighbors. Tile board tile X. If board tile X, yeah, right, I don't need this variable. So if board tile X, but what is T? T is the current tile. Yeah, this makes sense. So if the current tile, the board tile X equals 0, then we're at the first tile in a row. What did I do wrong here? Of course, I forgot to close the bracket. Oh my god. Every time you forget to close a bracket. Okay, this looks good. So 7 is this one, 8 is this one, 23 is this one, 39 is this one, 56 is this one, 62 and 55 is that one. Beautiful! Beautiful, so this works. Thank you, Cursibu, for reminding me to use what we already know about the tile. This is why we stored it into the tiles, to be able to work with it. Okay, cool. So the next thing that I want to work with is the opposite case. If the tile is the last in a row, it should pick the first one in a row. Right, so 14 is 14, 21 is 21, 19 is 19, 23 is 23. Okay, so essentially I'm just using the right neighbor. The right neighbor. Cool, so yeah, just doing the opposite. How hard could it be? How hard could it be? So the right neighbor. And we do the opposite. If I is the all tiles except last, no, the tile count. Tiles count -1. Then we say the neighbors to the east is the tiles count minus board tiles width -1, probably -1, or no, in this case not. Let's try this. Let's try this and see where I got wrong. Did I forget another time? Yeah, another time the bracket. The tile instance is not X and Y 2 and currently fire unicorn. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, 56 and 7, 5, okay, 62, 60, 58, 60, 56, and this should be, this is 48, which is wrong, but we're here at the last one and this is what we tried, and 56 is 56, so good, this works. So all we gotta do is reverse this thing here and then we should be good. So if board tile X equals the width -1, right? Then the tile neighbor to the west, no wait, what? East, right? Because I copied it over. Now this makes sense, okay. So it's I minus board tiles width, and this should be correct, right? Let's find out. So 40 is 40, 24 is 24. Let's pick a random one. 23 is up here, this is correct. 30 is here, 39 is here, and 24 is here. Let's pick this last one. So the southern neighbor is 7. Number 7 is correct. 56 is correct, 62 is correct, and 55 is correct, and the first one says 56 is correct, 1 is correct, 8 is correct, 7 is correct. Look at this, it works, everything works. My god, I can delete the to-do command and save this. Nice. You know what, since we are good testers, I will try different board sizes, because right now I just tried it by a 8x8 board. Let's try 16 by 11. How this works. Ha! Error variable out of range. Array board. Create 101 tiles neighbor array board. All tiles except last row. At line 101. Okay, so what is going on here? What is the problem? Array board, all tiles minus row. All tiles except last row. Okay, so somewhere in this horrible thing here, we have a problem. We have a problem. All tiles except last row. Should this be also -1? I'm just flinging crap at it and hoping that it fixes my problem. I will just try that and see if it compiles. No, it does not, so apparently this was not the problem. This is my way of coding, but I think I know what the problem is. Okay, so it works 8 by 8. Let's try 6 by 6. Let's try even numbers first. Is the array size set correctly, says Frank. And it should be, but at some point it is not. So I will try now this. I mean, let's figure out, let's check if 6 by 6 works correctly. So 29 is correct, 30 is correct, 5 is correct, and this is correct. 1 is good, 5, 6, and also here 17, 22, 29, 18. Yeah, okay, this works. Let's try 2 by 2. And this also looks correct. 1, 2, 2, 1. 1, 1, 2, 2. Okay, this also looks correct. And now let's try 1 by 1, and I think this might not work because now we're getting out of bounds errors. Oh, or not at all. Okay, so this is good apparently. But okay, let's try 8 by 8 worked before. Let's try 9 by 8. So I think it has to do with one number being odd. Can you log all the relevant numbers just before it goes wrong? Maybe I can. So variable index -1 out of range 72. 72. 9 times 8 is 72. So there must be a problem where I forgot because yeah, 9 times 8 is 72, but since we start counting at 0, this should be 72 is out of range. And why is it out of range? Board tiles, all tiles except last row, probably -1. I'm still sure that there is a -1 missing there. Let's try this. -1. Because it's just 1 too much. And still same problem. Okay. So this was not it. -1. So the southern neighbor of, you know what? Yeah, let's print out. Let's just print out and see. Show debug message, or just debug message, not show debug message. Otherwise, it would always pop up pop up debug, show debug message. And it was show debug message, just show us I, where we currently are. And it's at position 62. So we are at 62. And you know what, I will disable this else statement here just so that we can see where tile 62 is, where the problem starts. And now we get a different problem but look at this, we already made it to 71. So 62 must be shortly before the last row, right? 9 times 7 is 63. So this is the first tile on the last row is giving us a problem when we try to get its southern neighbor. So why? Again. All tiles except the last row. Board tiles width times board tiles height. -1. Log all tiles except. Right. Show debug message. What this value is before it goes wrong. And it's 63. It's 63. Also, I'm bored. So when this is 63 and I -63, you know what? Let's debug I. And oh, of course I need to string I plus just some sort of divider plus string and let's see which what value is I and what value is except last row. So I is 62 and the other thing is 63. So we are in the -1 and this is the problem there. So essentially we're tile neighbor, yeah. But if I say all except last row, minus minus, let's try this, which is -1. Why didn't help? Yeah, because right now it's 62. This should work. 62, 62, 62. So by the way, if you're wondering what I'm saying with 62, so here when 62 plus minus 62 should be 0, also minus 62, so this should be good. But then we're at 71 and suddenly get this problem here with text tile, the neighbor, the eastern neighbor, we can't draw it because it wasn't set correctly. So we're not having a problem there only in the southernmost southern neighbor, but also in the east neighbor. So this would be the right neighbor. So and this was at 71, so it's probably the last thing there, right? What did we do? 8 times 9, right? So this is 72, right? So we're at 71 and something doesn't have a right neighbor. Why not? Board tiles. Show debug message. Board tiles W string. So whenever this one shows up, we know that this if block is being executed and it doesn't show up. So if the board tile X equals board tile Y, am I even in the right if statement? No. If I equals or is greater than, maybe that's a problem. That wasn't a problem. So tile ID not set before reading it. So unknown object tile ID, and it can't draw the text of this unknown tile ID. Okay, so I'm going now to the draw routine, where it's where I say, you know what? I make a new variable, local variable, call it var, and say current neighbor, and when I draw top, I just draw current neighbor equals this, so that I can easily exchange it. Neighbor south, neighbor west, and neighbor east, so that I can pretty much use this statement here. And why did I want to do this? I forgot. So you know what? Let's debug message current neighbor, because this one will print the instance ID. I will deactivate now the other debug message that you had before, and deactivate, not deactivate, I will just print out the current neighbor, and if the instance ID is -4, we know that it's not set, that it is no one. And what do we have here? The instance ID looks to be correct. Am I even in the right one? Let's just have something string before it, that when I know that it starts with this string there, output. You know what? This doesn't even run apparently, because the problem is before this debug message even runs. Okay, this is good to know. This is good to know, but still. Do we need this here? Let's try left or right and see if it actually reaches this debug message. And yes, in this case, it does. This is good. 1, 2, 3, 4. and then it says 69. Yeah, this was not the best way to put this. So I will just say, because for left I will put is less than, and for right is greater than sign, and then we know, because I'm also printing the number there. So when left is 69, this is where the problem is, or rather than this was where it worked. No, so the current neighbor is 69, and what we also want to know is the tile ID, perhaps. So plus tile ID. So which tile ID is looking for its western neighbor? And it doesn't show me. Did I save this? What is wrong here? This doesn't fire? How come? Oh my god. So I will also disable here this debug message for I, because I really only want to expect. Okay, execution error. At least we got the execution error now here in our debug message. Debug message tile ID plus string current. What's the problem? Do add. Okay, probably a malformatted string. This is probably the problem there. Where was I? There. Okay, debug message plus, oh, of course I need to say string of tile ID, otherwise it tries to add a real number. Okay, so here we're in tile number 70 and it tries to add 69. So the problem is we got the tile ID should be, the last tile is 71. So the last tile is, I figured it out. I figured it out. And Frank says I'd expect 70. Exactly. The problem is that, let me show you when it works, then I can tell you what it is. So when everything is even, the very last tile is also a clue. But when things aren't even, at this point I was assuming that the very last tile is a clue. But when things aren't even, the last tile is essentially a resource field. So when I subtract now 1, so essentially we have to make a special case when we know that the last clue falls not on the very last field, and I think this was the problem. And we have to make a special case for this as well, I think. So this one works only if it's really the last clue on the line. So if I, or where do I have it? If board tile X, no, equals 0, and right neighbor, if I is greater than or equal to tiles count -1. And this is the problem, because it doesn't need to be essentially on the outermost, it doesn't have to be the outermost tile, it needs to be the last clue tile. Okay, let me try to think this through. So this only works if board width is even. So let's stick it in an if statement, because there aren't just two different cases, so I think we should be fine. So if board width, what's this board width? Board tiles width modulo 2 equals 0. Let's stick this also in parentheses just to be sure. then we do as we did it before, right? And if tiles count -1, else it's odd. This is very odd what I'm doing here. I don't think it's tiles width, no. It's the height, you mean. It's the height. Did I use the height? I'm not quite sure. The problem is, maybe it's not the height. Maybe it's... No, it must be a height. It's both, kinda. Let's try it. Let's try it with board width and try to see what changes there or whether it works. And from then we do more testing. More testing. So if tiles count -2, do the same thing, but board tiles with -1. My god, this is not tested. This is I'm just running it and see what happens. And okay, of course this works now because it's still 8 by 8. Let's try the width 9 by 8. And Frank says, I mean, with odd and height even is the same as with even and height odd. This, yeah, this is either or. This is true. Amy Sleeve says, I'm sorry I'm too much height. I feel mentally tired right now. I'm going to stretch a bit, reheat some pizza, and I'll be back. Not much. Don't worry, really. I'm not trying to outsource my coding problems to you. So absolutely no worries. And enjoy the pizza. My god, that sounds nice. Maybe I will enjoy my Kinder bar later on. And if you have both, you use tiles count. So right, if board tiles width is even and board tiles height is even, then this case should work, right? Okay, I did this now with the width being not even. So let's quickly check this. So this 71 is correct, 0 is correct, 17 is correct, and 7 is correct. 8 is correct, 63 is correct, 9 is correct, and 1 is correct. Okay, so let's do the test here. 61 is correct, 69 is correct, 8 is not correct. 6 is not correct. Okay, so this is also a problem that we're having. Good to know. And 62. 62 is here, is also not correct. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh my god, I thought this is just implementing all those edge cases and then we're good, but I mean, I could restrict the entire game to just be played on even fields. Maybe this will be the thing in the end anyways. But my god, this is just fundamentals, right? But I mean, at least this one here works. At least it compiles. So this is pretty much a lot of bullshit that I did here. But tiles width -1. What if it's not -1? I really just want to see what comes out of it. So 63 is also wrong, because then of course this makes sense, because the last, here we are, the west neighbor is, since we're not on the last tile, it's okay. Since we're not on the last tile, I can ignore this entire thing. The problem is not the neighbor on the left, on the right, but the neighbor on the right. Oh my god, it's so hard to verbalize this, what's going on in my head. Lady Mislip says, well, if I plan on doing coding for a living in the future, I need to get acquainted with other ways of thinking, so that's practice in some ways. Oh, but please don't torture yourself with trying to get into my head. The grids are easy as long as you don't have to write the code. Exactly. As long as you don't have to do it yourself, things aren't as hard, and I feel very comfortable about commenting on other people's codes as long as I don't have to write it. Kirsty Poo said, I would probably make it a 2D to 1D index conversion function and use it everywhere. So, I mean, right, so when I'm just giving it the coordinates, it would spit out the correct 1D index, right? says Carcibou. Yeah, I mean, this is getting overly complicated as it is right now, right? And this only here works when we're having certain assumptions about what the board looks like, right? Because if I equals 1 and we're not starting on a clue, this one doesn't work. If the board tile X you know what, I will have my Kinder bar right now because I need some blood sugar in my brain. Maybe I've been doing this all wrong. Frank says in terms of the 2D to 1D conversion function, that would allow you to write the numbers you think about to have the conversion in one place. I support this too. Right. By the way, I will mute the microphone so that you don't have to hear me eating. Oh, the Kinder bar you support. Okay, I'm back. Hope you didn't hear me chew. Yeah, okay, good. I wasn't sure whether I muted the microphone or the desktop audio. Okay, so I didn't get very far. I just looked at the problem and all I could think of was the problem. And I don't need this right now. Right now I'm just procrastinating and cleaning up the code, the empty lines that I don't need, just so that I hope that I don't have to think about the problem too much. Save. Because yeah, I want to work this registering neighbors, no matter whether we start with I mean, the problem that I'm having are just those cases there on the edges and the borders, right? Oh, Frank writes, tiles get even more fun if you're partitioning something like a big bitmap into tiles and 0,0 is in the middle. Oh my god. You have to check how modulo works for negative numbers then. My god, oh. I'm already stressed out just not thinking about that. Modulo in the negatives, my god. Right. Okay. So the board tiles top neighbors works always. The top neighbor always works, no matter where we are in the board. Of course, no, it does not work. But you know why? This is the problem that we had before. So yeah, let me just draw up a quick grid here, and default white. Yeah, let me draw up a quick grid here, stroke black, and explain to you what I think the problem is. And it has all to do with uneven. What is uneven? Odd. Things that are uneven are odd. 1, 2, 3. Why don't I see this line? Of course, the line needs to be black, so. Stroke line width, I want the shape And the thickness, let's also make it 10 pixels. So 1. Why don't I see this? This is infuriating. I really just want to draw a grid there. It's not my day. Okay, the fill was... No, I'm in the wrong thing. I want undo. I want to draw something there. The fill is black. It's a shape and it's 15 pixels. Right. 1, 2. Why don't I see this line? I'm having a lot of problem. You know what? I'm having a lot of problem. My God, even my English tries to escape me. Let's do this with brushes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I said I needed to be odd, not even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Well, let's just copy, paste, and rotate. Beautiful. Okay. So the problem here is now I will just do the same thing here with blue is a clue. Maybe I should also do this. When we start on a clue, this is all nice, but when we also end on a clue, okay, so this should be white. So when the first thing is a clue, this is nice, but then we end on a clue, so this clue doesn't have another resource as neighbor, it has another clue as neighbor. So this doesn't work, right? When it wraps around. So again, let me try to draw it as well with a different shade of blue. So this neighbor is a clue, so we don't have a resource there. And this neighbor on top is also a clue, so this also does not work. And same thing goes here for this side. Its neighbor is also a clue. So only clues to the top and bottom work. So essentially, I never can have odd numbers in neither rows nor columns, because clues can have other clues as neighbors. I'm postulating that clues can have other clues as neighbors. And if I don't allow this, only even numbers for rows and columns, we should be good. Because otherwise you're inviting yourself into a world of pain, I would assume. Maybe I keep it like that for now. Maybe this might change if the board layout might change then. But I think I will just fix it, and yeah, it always have to be even numbers. So really only even sizes can work, says Frank. Obvious in hindsight. Yeah, at least it only took me 3 hours to arrive at this and not 3 weeks, but yeah. So I don't need this. And I don't need this. And I always have to make sure, let's try if it works when everything is even. You could have odd sizes if you wrap straight, but offset by 1 or something like that. I'd say don't do it now. Yeah, I also don't want to do it now. Okay, 55 is correct, 62 is correct, 56 is correct, and 8 is not correct. Why 8? Where did I break the code there? Why 8? I did an oopsie. Or of course, because I think this is the problem. No, this is neighbor east. Was this neighbor east the problem there? Actually, I think I have too much code. Yeah, it looks like it. It does look like it, right? Yeah, 56 is correct. 8 is not correct. And 2, it's offset by 1 in the last row. 24, 40, 56. Yeah. So bottom neighbor. There we are. Because all tiles except last row, I decremented by 1. Why did I do this? I suspect you can actually get rid of most of those if-else things by using more modulo. Probably, yes. now it works. Now it works. Good. So I just delete this. And the one thing that I make sure is if right on top, if board tiles width modulo of 2 equals not 0 is not 0, or same thing for height, then we have a problem. Show debug message board tiles W and board tiles height and must be even, exclamation point. And you know what, at this point I will break off the game and essentially say, yeah, don't do this, just game end, and show debug message. What other ways to debug is, I want a pop-up there for the players. Let me just try it there. Compile output, show debug message. Debug overlay, what is show message? I think it's just show message, not show debug message. So let me try. 9 times 8. And it should say out of range, but apparently it didn't. Oh, it's not and, it's or. My god, this was embarrassing. Board tiles W and board tiles H must be even, okay. And the game doesn't end, but I also need to say exit, because exit in GameMaker means don't finish executing the rest of the event, just exit out of this event. So I'm just saying game end because this doesn't get executed for another frame, or at least until the event has finished firing, and now it works. Good, so board tiles width, let's also put it here in parentheses, must be even. So there is no easy way to have some sort of, or the ability to just inject some variables there to be exchanged, like you would have with printf and then comma and then your variables, for example. I don't think this works in GameMaker, so this is why I have to do it the verbose way and say board tiles width and board tiles height. Just copy this over. Yes, okay, this looks good. And board tiles height. Board tiles width 9 and board tiles height must be even, and 8. Right. Frank writes, because assuming an 8 times 8 grid for tile 37 and the S neighbor, 37 plus 8 is 42, and for 48 on the bottom row, the S neighbor is mod 46, but mod 46 you can just always do the mod. I'm not quite sure I'm following, probably because I've read it too fast. For the lower side, you have to check if modulo does the right thing for negative numbers, and if it doesn't, add another 64 to make everything positive. Right, yeah, I could do this with modulo, absolutely. I mean, all my ifs there and the board tiles width and so on. But you know what? I won't do this, at least not right now, because with this code, as confusing as it may look like, it works for me. At one glance, I can work with this, because with modulo, I always have to do some, like I say, mental gymnastics, because it's not, at least to me, it's not the most natural way to think. So this is why I will keep it as it is right now, at least for this prototype. When we're going in production, then of course it's entirely a different thing, because then I want to make the code as robust as possible, and for this prototype I just want to make it work, essentially. You read all the numbers wrong, so nothing made sense. as I was reading out your comment, so it's a good thing that in the stream your comment is retained. It's a prototype, it doesn't matter, and yes, that needs some getting used to. Okay, so it's good that we have at least here in my prototype this check here, that if things go horribly wrong, then at least the game won't continue to try to make it work. So let's see if this works. 90, 99 and 999, 98, good. And let's also check these cases here. 69 is good, 50 is 50, 90 is 90, 9 9, 10 10, 1 1, good. So it only works for even dimensions. But it's 1 times 1 even, it is not, and it will probably shout in my face that it must be even. This is good, and 2 times 2 should work. And it does. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So, right, I like this. I like that this is working. So the next thing that I actually wanted to do, because I figured that I can do these edge cases very quickly, probably half an hour, and now we're here at 2 hours. Okay, so what I will try now to do is to populate the game with clues. For one thing, for starters, maybe just horizontal clues. So to reiterate, if anyone tuned in, thank you so much for giving my horrible unstructured stream a watch. And what I want to do is to have this kind of clues where it reads what the resource field to its left and to its right is, and then just prints out the values and also gives the resources assigns a sign to these resources. So it just picks either -1 or negative or plus, and then essentially writes it in stone, and all other following clues have to take this into account when they while I was talking about it, it just occurred to me what the problem is. Okay, another time we're here at problem solving, or more or less creating problems. Okay, so I'm making the resource fields now orange. And I'm also cutting this to make it even again. There we go. Maybe this was a bit too much. This looks nicer. Okay, so I'll copy this over. This was deleting it. There we go. Okay, next problem. So again, the resources have been essentially distributed randomly, right? So 2, 1, 3, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. Yeah, this is a 3. My God, this is ugly. Okay, so the first clue says 1 next to 2, and then decides that this should be a +1, for example. This is a minus. So the next clue gets in between here and already has to take this -2. You know what? The problem is not very apparent when it's just a 4x4 grid. So let's make this a bit bigger, and hopefully the problem that I'm having with it will become apparent. I hope, and I try to draw my numbers better. Okay, so let's use a smaller brush. So that's 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now doing the clues and the signs. And right now I'm just doing horizontal clues, right? So okay, so brush. The first clue here, you know what, I make it even dark blue. So this is a 1 and this is a 1. So I just say 1 next to 1, and I will decide that this is a +1 and this is a -1. So the next clue in the series, because I'm just going from one to the next. So once this clue is done, let's say, okay, we've made this clue, we jump to the next one. Okay, this clue, this one here, looks at the sign on this side. This is a plus sign, so when it says 1 next to 2, it assigns a negative sign to this one. So essentially, it's very obvious what's happening here. the first clue determines the first sign of everything, and then if I'm using just horizontal clues, it just alternates between plus and minus throughout. So again here, the first one is, let's say this one is also plus, so this one will be a minus, this one will be a plus, this one will be a minus again. So this might be a problem. So let's try and see what happens if I also allow vertical clues. So I mean, you get the problem, right? If all are horizontal, that's an issue, exactly, says Cursey-Boo. So let's try and alternate between horizontal or vertical, or just make some vertical. I should really have used a separate a separate layer for this, because I mean, this is Photoshop. This is exactly the reason why you have layers that you don't draw into your grid. Sorry, I need to clean this up a bit. Okay, good. So I make a new layer now. There we go. Okay, so let's start with the first clue. Let's say let's keep it. It's horizontal. I need a dark blue again. So let's say, yeah, this is 1, 1, but this is plus. Was this plus before? I don't know. So this should be minus. Now the next one, let's say this one is a 3, 3, 1, 3, 2. Right, so this one here is a vertical one. So what did we have here? 3 over 1. 3 over 1, and this one decides here that 3 is plus. So this must be a minus. Next one here, this one also can decide whether it's plus or minus. So let's 2 next to 3, and we'll say also this is a plus, this is a minus. And now we have here another problem, because now we have here something is minus on both sides. So what shall we do? We can't use a horizontal clue here, because both would be minus. This is not allowed. Can we flip something? What if we flip this to a plus one? Doesn't work, then essentially we would just ripple through everything flipping. Okay, so let's continue and let's say, okay, maybe when I can't change the signs anymore, let's try to make it to make it a vertical clue, right? So let's say this is a 2 over 2. 2 over 2, and let's make this is also negative 2, and this is a plus 2. Okay, so at this point, this one here, for example, we know that this is a minus, so this has to be a plus, and this is a plus, so this one has to be a minus, whatever the clue is. Let's say it's just 1, anything 1. So essentially what I need to also say is which clue, especially in this case, or no, not in this case. So a clue, when a clue gets generated, I'm just trying to figure out an algorithm there. So when, let's say we pick this tile here as a clue. Okay, when a clue gets, before a clue gets generated, first it looks around its neighbors and examines them if any of those neighbors already has a sign assigned. In this case we know, okay, vertically it's a plus on top, let's say north. North is a plus and west is a minus. Okay, so when none is assigned, as in this case here, where we can pick either one, then then there's a chance, let's say a 1 to 3 chance, 1 in 2, no, 1 in 3, right. A 1 in 3 chance whether it will be vertical, horizontal, or A for ambiguous. This is when the clue is like this. Right. My god, this is already so tense in terms of brain usage. Okay, so in this case, since we got already one set, we can say, okay, this let's make this a vertical clue. Okay, we've thrown a die and it said it's a vertical clue. So, okay. Since then we can draw the numbers or say which numbers are and assign. Yeah, this already is a plus, so this means it's a minus that we need to assign. Okay, I think this could work. The problem is when we are pretty much done with the entire board and we're getting there to the last row. Let's try this. Well, I'm not using a 4 or in this case right now, but let's simulate this getting to the last row, and this one is already a plus, minus, minus, plus. And the 1 was not assigned before, but maybe let's say this has been a plus, so it's a minus. Okay, so here we are, and we pick, okay, so all clues plus is this case, so there would be a +1, so all clues already are assigned. So essentially we need to pick opposing or different or alternating signs. In this case we can only pick minus and +3, right? Because this one is a plus and this one is a plus, doesn't work. So this has to be a horizontal clue. Okay, so this works. Just say 1 next to 3. Right, has this 3 been picked so far? This has not. But let's assume this one has been picked with a plus. So we get here a +2 and a -3. Okay, so this would work also vertical. So we just say 3 and 2. Okay, but how about this? This is the point that I was getting to. There we have a problem, right? So here we have a -3. Let's enter it here. We have a -3, right? And this, now we're in a pickle. Because we have here a +3 and this is a +2, so it can't be a horizontal clue. But we also got a -2 and a -3, so we can't have a vertical clue. So there is no clue possible on this field that would allow us to lock either. So yes, what should we do with a drunken sailor? No. What should we do with special cases like this? And I mean, let's also have a, I will just make a big question mark there, and let's continue and have this final thing here. So this is a -1, so okay, this could already work, and this is here we are also at a -1. Okay, so this works. So essentially the problem is, what if we can't generate a clue? What if we can't generate a clue? Can clues, right now, clues are either horizontal, so we have here a clue for either this or that, they can be vertical. I mean, yeah, this was vertical and this is horizontal, so let's make it like this. This is beautiful. But what would also work is if we have clues that go around a corner like this. So we have the north and the east. So in this case, this would work. But what would happen in a strange case where we have only minuses? Another problem. Because then we really can't have a clue here. No matter how much gymnastics we make here with which clue to pick, right? So what to do in these cases? So, okay, it's cool that we already figured out 2 different special cases for this problem. Does this make sense? I mean, it does to me, but if you haven't been following closely, and really I can't, it's completely okay. I'm not judging you if you haven't been following this kind of weird mental gymnastics that I'm making right now. My god, this looks like the scrollings of a madman. Okay, yeah, so right now there are some fields where I can't put clues there because everything is of one sign there. And the other problem that I'm having, as outlined before, unless I'm not allowing these kind of 90-degree clues, as in this case here, those are also problematic. I will just dot them here around the question mark. So what I could do in terms of designing is, I mean, it's not very elegant, but I could just block this here. Just say, yeah, this is not a clue. This doesn't work because there is some weird things going on around here, and probably same thing. Same thing, where am I? Same thing down below. So essentially you would have some holes in the clues because the clues can't be generated in these special cases. And for that I have no solution right now. I have no solution. I mean, I could generate clues on the fly. Right now I'm creating the entire board and then flipping the tiles over essentially, so that you have to uncover them. But what if the tiles are essentially they are empty, and depending on only the clues or the tiles that have been opened, essentially it's like Schrödinger's puzzle game. You only know it when you really observe what's going on. Otherwise it can have both states. Maybe I call this Schrödinger's puzzle game then. This would be funny. But then again, I might run into the same problems in the end. So whenever the player uncovers a tile, the game should look at all the remaining tiles and look at whether it's still possible to make them work and how to make them work. And if not, yeah, what to do. God, really running into some conceptual problems here. Yeah, and if you hear some weird noises now, my wife is coming in to print something there on the printer. So, yeah. Kirsty says backtrack, maybe non-clue black squares like in crosswords. Right. I mean, it looks an awful lot like a crosswords puzzle where you have those black boxes, and I mean usually those black boxes could be in places where it's visually pleasing. But apart from that, I'm not quite certain to go that route. But it would make sense where you just block off certain parts of the puzzle. But then again, of course, it gives you hints as a player where you know, okay, around those black squares, something is not as it should be. Or you can deduce much more about the problem that you have. My God, this is hard. Puzzle game design is hard. When 3 weeks ago I thought, yeah, I really have it down. It can't be too hard to implement this. As for the prototype, right? As for the prototype, you know what I could do for the prototype now, just to see if things work? I could try to do this approach where I'm just going one tile after the other. The other thing is that I could maybe just randomly pick any clues and then start assigning there. But sooner or later, it doesn't matter if I go in a one after the other in a sequential fashion to distribute the signs on the resources, or if I just do it Monte Carlo style. I think it doesn't matter. In the end, there will probably be problems. Right now, those problems probably arise there in the lower rows when all the other things already have been set or defined. When I'm running Monte Carlo, it could probably be anywhere on the board then. But you know what? Let's try this out. If there is a clue, you know what? I will code it up like this. So we just create those hints, and I think this is all I will accomplish today. I just create those hints and distribute signs, and then also register which resource belongs to which clue, because this is also important. No, some resources can belong to up to 4 clues, so maybe not. Maybe inside the clue, which resources are part of the clue. Yeah, this makes more sense, because you can have a resource that's part of more clues than one. Okay, so this is what I'll do. I create the algorithms for horizontal and vertical clues. I'm not bothering with either or right now. I mean, in the end, it's just a display thing where it either tells you outright it's one next to the other or one over the other, or maybe it just says either or, but this is just a display thing for the player. And then when I happen to arrive at something where I can't find opposing signs, then the tile itself, the clue itself, will black itself out. I think for now I could try this and see if there are any patterns emerging. Yeah, let's do this. I will also save this later, perhaps. Okay, tiles. What do I need? First, each tile, once a tile has its neighbors, and a tile should have its neighbors there in the first time its step runs. Register, or first it clue creation. So first we look at switch type. Okay, if the type is of type clue. Okay, this is going to be a big case, so I will put it in square brackets. Okay, first we assign the sprite clue. Then we check neighbors for signs, plus or minus. Depending on that, pick a neighbor and register opposing neighbors and assign signs. I think this is how we do it. Okay, so check neighbors for signs. So I'm just trying to determine, is there a certain sequence of neighbors that we want to check? First, always the left neighbor, and if it has a sign, then we check the right neighbor and whether it has a sign. Yeah, first let's check horizontal. Check horizontally. If this makes sense. Okay. Var n1 equals how to get neighbors. How did I do this? Neighbors and then tile neighbor. North, south, east or west. So neighbors, tile neighbor, west. And 2 is tile neighbor, east. Of course, yeah, does the resource have a value? I mean, or a sign? I think that the sprite needs also to have some sort of sign. You know what? I will make this as an enum tile sign plus minus. Right, and value is value type generic, or type value is generic. Resource properties and tile sign. You know what? Plus, minus, and undefined. Oh, I can't use undefined because it's already a factory preset word. Okay, plus, minus, and unclear. Well, this is not clear. I want undefined, really, unsigned. Unsigned. Tile sign, none. Let's use none. Or is none also a constant? No, I don't think so. Tile sign is tile sign none. So it gets, everything gets created, all the resources with an unset sign, and this is what we can check for here. So if n1 tile sign equals tile sign none, Or I want to also check for any sign if it already has a sign. Tile sign none. If tile sign none. Should I do this with signs, or should I just check great is the value greater than 0 or 1? You know what, I will keep it with a sign with this enum, because maybe the game will change and I won't be using numbers or anything, or negative positive numbers, maybe just different colors. And this is what makes me stay more flexible. So if the neighbor has no sign, or one neighbor has no sign, let's also encapsulate this. And or if one or the other has no sign, then it's cool that we assign one sign. We find out which one already has a sign, and assign the other a sign. My God, this is not easy to follow, probably. Right, if and or. Maybe I should do this differently. First I check one. So if this one has no sign, and if N2 has also no sign, then we are free to pick one. Pick one and assign. Otherwise, else then give N1 the opposite of N2's sign. Makes sense, right? I mean, right now I'm only checking N1. Right now I'm picking always the west neighbor first. To do, pick either east or west neighbor. We can do this with a random number generator, but for now I will just try to do this. So then I make a new script that returns the opposite of a given sign. So I call this function opposite, and it needs a tile sign. And if tile sign equals, or you know what, I switch on the tile sign. Mistyping a lot today. And case tile sign minus return tile sign plus break, just to be sure. And if the tile sign is plus, return the tile sign minus. Minus, right. And otherwise just return the tile sign again, because it will be undefined or unsigned. Return tile sign. So we just return it. Good. Okay, so if tile sign equals sign none in tile 2, then I just var sign equals choose, which is a very helpful function in GameMaker, where it just chooses one of the options you provide. So we say tile sign plus or tile sign negative, tile sign minus, and then we say which one should we choose? Should we always pick the left one? Again, I want this to be completely random, like here. Either just pick a random neighbor, and Is it the horizontal neighbor or vertical neighbor? Right, what I want to do is we pick one of the three of the four neighbors that a clue has. Right now I'm just picking first the west and then the east. So we're picking, but I want to pick randomly one of the out of the four, then find its opposing tile or its opposing neighbor, and then I check if the opposing neighbor of either one of those has already a set sign or their sign set. And if not, I just assign them a sign. My god. And otherwise, I will just roll with the sign that is already there and give the other one the opposing sign, the opposite sign. So, I mean, for this there are only two options. Whether I start with N2 and N1 or with N1 and N2. I'm really just trying to find the best data structure or idea, get the best idea on how to do this. And I feel a little bit under pressure on the stream despite having, my god, 11 viewers. Oh my god, you really must have nothing better to do on your Sunday. I'm so sorry that you have to follow my convoluted way of thinking of doing things. Right. Okay. Right, I will stay. Makes sense. Thank you so much, Cursey Boo. Okay, I will. At this point, I will. Yeah, my problem is that I'm always trying to go too far ahead without finishing a line of code, and then I have this convoluted mess where there could be countless bugs, and usually there are countless bugs, but while I was thinking I was getting ahead of myself and adding more and more cases without even testing or running the code first. So this is the problem that I'm having. So no matter, I will always start here with the west neighbor and then look at the east neighbor. So if there is no sign, then I will choose a sign and assign it to the west neighbor, always, for now. So just to do, pick either neighbor. And now I know that I need to fix this. So N1 tile sign equals sign, and N2 tile sign equals opposite sign. Makes sense, right? But if tile sign N1 has no sign, but tile sign 2 already has a sign, then we N1 tile sign equals the opposite of N2 sign, tile sign. Makes sense. But this is only when we're testing N1 first. But what if N1 has no sign? Or N1 already has a sign? Okay, so if N1 has no sign, then we are here, then else. So F1 has a sign, so okay, just copy it over. Or you know what, if N2 tile sign is not tile sign none, then we might have a problem. If tile sign, if N1's tile sign equals N2's tile sign, we have a horizontal problem here. Otherwise, or else, it's all good, continue, because we don't need to assign anything to anyone because they are already of opposing signs. But if tile sign is not 1, but if it's none, else, then we can assign N2 the opposite of N1. Equals N1 tile sign opposite of that. Makes sense, right? Does. It does. Good, so pick a neighbor, register opposing neighbors, assign signs. So this is horizontal. Good, okay. So assuming this all works now. Okay, let me go through it again. Just to make sure that I didn't forget something. And you know what? I will make this visual and have Paint, good old MS Paint open on the other side that I can draw along, that you see what is actually happening there in my head and also in the if statement. So this is only horizontal. So yeah, let's make this big. Where are my shapes? There are my shapes, and let's pick this one here. So right now, or yeah, let's make this square. Yeah, not what I wanted. This is better. Okay, so we got one clue in the middle and two neighbors. Again, I make the clue blue and the neighbors or the resources orange. Right, okay, so let's make this smaller. Right, so we pick N1, and N1 in this case will always be the west neighbor. So I'll just give this N1, make this big and black. So this is N1. And there is N2. Good. And Lilo Cormick says, hi, I'm not really here, but I have something I'm curious about. Why do you prototype in Game Maker if you plan to make the game in Unity? Because I feel I'm much faster in Game Maker, and Unity distracts me easily, and I get easily intimidated by Unity because I always want to make it right from the start, and especially with object-oriented programming, I'm having more problems with the programming language than trying to figure things out in my head. And this is why I'm using Game Maker for prototyping, because I'm just much faster in Game Maker and getting to the problem or the root of a problem that I have in Game Maker than over Unity, because I'm not that experienced with object-oriented programming. But once I have a working prototype in Game Maker, I want to switch over and port the thing to Unity and try to recreate essentially what I did in Game Maker just with Unity and see how that goes. So essentially that's the problem. And Blushyface says, just checking in here, what are you making? Hello Blushyface, thank you so much for dropping by. Yeah, right now I'm trying to code up a prototype of a tiled puzzle game in Game Maker. And just very quickly, this is currently my status. Well, actually the game is supposed to look like this. So you have very shortly, you have a board with alternating tiles. Blue is a clue and orange is a resource field. And resources can be -3 to +3. And when you open up a clue, it says here 1/3, for example, which means there is a 1 on top and a 3 on bottom, but you don't know which sign. Is it a -1 or is it a +1? The problem is when you open a clue, you drag this, open a resource, you drag this over. Yeah, the area is not empty. And it's a +3. You get 1, 2, 3 on your top here, your resources, but the opposite side locks. And this is the big thing there, and it's always on one end is a plus and on the other end is a minus. And this is what I'm trying to code up now in Game Maker right now. You know what? I will try to run this and see if it compiles even. And malformed. Oh my god, can use function script name for variable using sign. Why? Choose. Oh, why can't it use a sign? Of course, because it's an enum. There we go. Okay, so I'm already at this problem. So sort of Minesweeper, but more advanced. Exactly, kind of Minesweeper. I came from Minesweeper, and I want to have something that's more advanced as Minesweeper, and I'm not even sure if it's fun. So this is why I'm coding up this prototype, so that I can just see if it is fun or if there are certain patterns where you can outsmart the game, and then hopefully essentially make work against this and make it more fun. Okay, so right now the problem that I'm having, well, it's not a problem. I'm creating a randomly generated board, and it already distributes those resources, those +2, -2, randomly, and now I want the clues that there are only horizontal clues that are being created, and this is what I'm trying to code up right now. And again, it's here the plus and minus sign. Okay, so let's try this. So first, for now, when I'm picking a clue, the clue first gets its western neighbor, N1, and its eastern neighbor, this is N2. And first it looks at N1. So has N1 already a sign? Where is my brush? Is this a good brush color? Let's make it green. Let's make it green because this looks nicer. Okay, so does this one have here a plus or a minus? Does this look, well, yeah, okay. It does not. So if it does not, and also N2 has no sign, I shouldn't use the minus for no sign. So this has no sign and this has no sign. Good. So then we just pick a random sign. It's either plus or minus. And the tile sign of N1 is now sign. So we picked a plus. So the N2 has the opposite sign, which is a minus then. And we're done. Cool. Okay, but this one has no sign, but N2 has a sign. Let's say it's a minus. Then N1's sign is the opposite of N2's sign. Okay, this works as well. But what if N1 already has a sign? Let's say it is minus, and the sign of N2 has no sign, then the sign of N2 is the opposite of N1. Okay, this also works. But what if N2 already has a sign? Maybe it's also minus. Then if N1 sign and equals is the same as N2 sign, we have a horizontal problem here because one needs to be a plus. So this doesn't work anymore. But if this is minus and this sign is already plus, it's all good. We can continue. All two have been assigned, essentially. Cool, right? Okay, so this is good, but apparently we're having some problems here. Cannot use function script name for a variable. What is going on here? So let's close this. No, I closed Game Maker. There we go. I didn't close it. Okay, object tile event. Sign. We can't apparently choose from a enum. It can only choose values. Okay, so this is good to know. In my case, tile sign is plus, minus, or none. So it's, did I type it correctly? Yes. You know what? Then I can't use the choose. But I can say var rnd rand equals I random 1, and this I random between 0 and 1. I random between 0 and 1, yeah. If rand equals 0, this is very stupid, but okay, there we go. Sign equals tile sign, let's say minus, else sign tile sign plus, when it doesn't allow me to use choose. And of course I need to use initialize it as a value, so sign equals 0 for now. And I mistyped sign. There we go. Snig. How often can you type sign wrong? I was looking around for channels to get some ideas what to make as well, and yours looks interesting, so figured to check in, and here I am. Oh, this is nice. Thank you so much for dropping by at a bad time where I'm just wrestling again with my initial idea and trying really to find out where or whether it even works in the end. Okay, so pick either neighbor. So tile, I wrote sing and not sign. Apparently you can type sign wrong more often than it has letters squared. Okay, so this is probably the most verbose way of doing this, but maybe this works. Probably not, because I still got cannot use function script name for a variable using sign. 22. Sign. Oh, so sign is this a built-in value? Let me quickly check the manual there. Apparently not. Oh, sign is, did I, yes, random, I have random. If I random, I don't need this. I can type this like this. Okay, sign. Cannot use function or script name for a variable using sign. I will just call this sign underscore and see if this does things better. Yeah, apparently sign, you can't use sign because it's something already. Okay, so apparently it still compiles. And you know what, let's make the playing field not 2 by 2 but 8 by 8. And see how this works. Good, okay, so this still works. Let me just check. By the way, the white numbers are just the neighbors on the clue. So 55 is 55, 62 is 62, 56 is there, and 7 wraps around and is 7. Okay, this is good. This is good. I don't need to debug now the neighbors since that is working. So current neighbor, let's call this debug neighbor IDs, and I can just, or you know what, if 1 equals 0, and then I can just switch it on and off. Do a nice indenting there. This is good. Okay, so the next thing that I want is for the resources, if type resource, then we draw the value. If value is not 0, then cool. So according to the docs, sign is a reserved keyword and returns sign of n. Okay, thanks Blushy Face. So it's one again when always the best words like none, undefined, and sign and are already occupied, already wasted. Right, what did I want to do? Right, I want to draw the sign into the text numbers. So switch sign, no, if, no, switch, there we go, switch, what did I call it? Did I call it sign? Tile sign, okay, this is why it works there. Switch tile sign, okay, then var, I call it print value equals, is an empty string. So if tile sign, case tile sign plus, then print value is the string, or is plus the string of value. Don't need parentheses here. And break. So case minus is minus value, or we can multiply string value or value value times -1, so it's negative now. I think this is good when the value is negative, then we print just the value, and default we just print the value. Print value string value. But this means, you know what, print string, but I put a question mark in front that I know that it has no sign at this point. And then I draw the text print value in the middle of the resource field. And let's have a check and see how this works. Oh God. Oh God, do you see this? It's alternating between those states. This is not good. Switch tile signs. Apparently the tile sign gets assigned differently each time. No, this is not good. This is not good. I never intended for this to happen, but I mean, this is programming, isn't it beautiful? So switch tile sign. If the tile sign is plus, print it with a plus. The tile sign is minus. Multiplied. Oh, of course, it multiplies it by minus each time and not just the first time when it is. So yeah, instead I'm not multiplying the value, I just keep the value and do it as before, just with a minus. This was the problem. So it, yeah, I just, per each frame I'm multiplying it by -1 and yeah. There we go, look at this. This is, I want to say much nicer, but optically, visually it is not, so I need to, again I'm at prettifying, so I started at like say 16 pixels from the right. This looks better, maybe 12 even, Don't mutate, says Cursey Boo. And my god, I'm a fan of the Mutant Ninja Turtles and I always mutate or even mutilate my variables. Yes, I mutilate my variables. You're welcome. Okay, so this is good. Let's have a look at this. Minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus. So right now it's alternating between those signs, which is good because it means we got no question mark. As we have here, when something is not defined, it would put a question mark in front. So we have none of this, which is good. But it's also alternating between plus, minus, which is bad, but it's good because this is something, as I outlined, my god, I shouldn't zoom in, as I've outlined here before, in this beautiful scribbling there, that this is what happens when we only have these clues which are one next to the other. Okay, so I want to stream for another 15 minutes, so I don't think that I might be able to implement the same thing there for vertical and then where it just switch, or you know what, maybe I might. But I also want to indicate on a clue whether it's a horizontal clue or a vertical clue. You know what, let's try this. So clue type, tile type, I make another enum clue type, horizontal, vertical, none for now. I hope none is not a reserved keyword as well. And oh my god, I got another thing to moderate. This is amazing. Where can I, J Monster, where can I don't want to reply, right click, and there we go. Can I block you? Ban, report, yes. Hate speech, no, it's spam. It's spam, I think this is a bot account. And could you provide, no, I can't provide more feedback. Looks scammy. Submit report. Close. And Blushyface says, do you not look at the docs? Usually I do. Usually I do, but sometimes when I'm in the middle of coding, it's easier if I just run it and then see, okay, it doesn't compile. Probably a reserved keyword. I think I know most of them by now, but yeah, sometimes this still happens. I get them too when I stream, but just ban them. Yeah, I just report them and right now, ban. Good. It's so hard to report something to Twitch. I mean, right in the middle of your stream, it's really... no bots, exactly. This is a no bots channel, unless for some reason I turn out to be a bot. Okay, so clue type, and I say tile type, and clue type is clue type none. And in this case, I say, since it's a tile type clue, and for now I'm only doing horizontal clues, to do also check vertically, but clue type is clue type horizontal, right? So now that when we draw it, I can switch on that. So if tile type is clue, right, and I'm not going to do any debugging, switch clue type. My god, my typing. Clue type, there we go. Case, clue type horizontal, break, because right now we only have horizontal clues. Well, at least you know more about GameMaker than me. Looks like a nice engine to make games, but I don't use it. Yeah, whatever works for you, I always say, whatever is the most intuitive for you to work with, it's the right one for you. I don't think there is a right or wrong when it comes to game engines. I mean, even if you go to DOSBox and use Quick Basic there, I mean, it works, and you can also run it in QB64 and then it runs super fast. So what do I know? As long as it gets the job done that you want to do, it's fun. And it's paid, right? Yes, a GameMaker. I bought this and it wasn't as cheap as I would have thought, but I started with the GameMaker before and then got my mindset in GML. I'm thinking when I'm thinking in coding most of the times in GameMaker language, so yeah, I paid for it. But many people nudged me towards, was it Godot, to check out, because it's a bit like Blender, right? It always flew under the radar until suddenly everyone is using it because it passed the threshold of a certain functionality, I think. But yeah, I haven't tried it out myself. I prefer Godot, yeah, as it's free, but I know a lot of people use GameMaker. Yeah, again, whatever works for you. Right, clue type horizontal. So we want to print a number next to the other number, right? This should be easy. So I mean, I shouldn't be doing this on each frame in the draw routine, which is wasteful, but for now this is a prototype, this is okay. So I call variable name, or just right and left, or right left, and say right, the value of right equals neighbors tile neighbor west. Is this right? No, this was east. And do the same thing there for left is west, and I want the value Vlaue, of course, value. And now I just set the font and draw it. Yeah, let's use white for now. Sure, why not use the debugging font in white? And let's just draw the text at 24. Draw text x plus, let's say 6, and y 24. And let's print string. Let's construct a string here. Let's just say right, or it's, because it's a string right, string left, good. And I just say right plus the pipe character plus left, and it should draw this. Why is this red? Oh, I've forgot to use a colon there. What? Not set before reading current neighbor. Or print, yeah, just wrote current neighbor. Okay, the chat says, yep, logic should not be done in the paint function, but it works. But it works if it works. Sometimes it works now, but it breaks when needed to extend it. Yeah, I should do this in the step function. Have you made stuff with GameMaker before, or first attempt? I don't know much about GameMaker. I'm more of a C# person. Yes, I made a game, Finesweeper, that's on Steam, and did a lot of Game Jam prototypes with GameMaker. So I think I know my way around it, and I'm so happy that I know how to parse Steam leaderboards in data in GameMaker. Okay, so let's try this again and cross our fingers. Look at this! It works! No, it does not. Look at this. At first glance it works, but 3 next to 1. 3 is here and 1 is here. This is wrong. 2 to 1, this is also wrong. 2 and 2 is correct. Okay, so why is this wrong? It's just swapped the other way around. Did I? Oh my god. Did I mix up left and right again? Oh, this is driving instruction all over. Right, yeah, it's left and then is right. Right? So right is to the east and left is to the west. Yeah, okay. Lady Mistliff says, well, you're doing good still. Somehow. somehow. Okay, so 1 next to 3, 3, 1, 1, 3, 2, 2, 2, 1. This looks good. Let's check the edge cases. 3 and this is 1, 3 and this is 2, 3 and this is 1, 3 and 3. Oh, yes, this works. This works. Oh my god, this works, and I still got 5 minutes. Should we also try to implement a vertical? You know what? I could at least lay the drawing code down for vertical. So vertical, or top and bottom, top, bottom, and make the strings look nice there. North and south, font set debug, and then we start at Y6 and we construct the string and we say top, line break, dashes, line break, bottom, and then we start at Y25 and no, X24 and Y6, and this should be for the vertical. And just to see whether our drawing code works, I just switch the clue type to vertical, and of course no, it won't work because then it might work, it might work. It might work. Yes, it doesn't look pretty, but it works. 2 over 3, 3 over 3, 1 over 3, 3 over 3, 1 over 3, 3 over 3. Yes, it works. It works. I mean, the clues are still handed out horizontally, but I mean, in the logic. But at least, I mean, it looks horrible. It looks horrible. But at least there in the logic, the drawing code works. Let's switch this back to horizontal before I forget everything that I want. Game Maker not support string interpolation. No, I don't think it does. I mean, I used this once. I had a certain function that did this as a script, but yeah, with Game Maker sometimes you really have to do things yourself. For example, buttons, or you don't have a canvas in Game Maker, you don't have buttons, you just make objects with certain sprites that change when you mouse over them, for example, but you have to code it all yourself. Yeah, and yeah, and Cursibu even gives me this guy. Beautiful. So yeah, I'm pretty much not as far, haven't gotten as far as I want to, but much further than it looked like in the middle of coding. So I think I will call it a day for today. But yeah, what's in it the next time for us? Probably I will do the vertical clue distribution, and then I will start doing the mouse over, and that we actually can start playing and see whether it's fun to play or something. So maybe just to get it open there, that when I click something, that it switches over and reveals what is there, and maybe even keep a tally on my resources. At least, again, this is the plan for next time. Maybe I get to it during the week, then I will be able to show off to you by next Sunday what I have managed to, but probably this is going to be somewhat of a stressful week at work, so I'm not quite sure if I managed to do this. But hey, I'm very happy that it still turned out some way recognizable to my initial design, so let's escape this. And thanks for the stream, says Frank. Yeah, again, thank you so much for staying for 3 hours, just me mumbling to myself my code variable numbers. And also Blushy Face says sounds good. And yeah, if you're blushy because you're happy watching me stream this, okay, I'm just making things up now. Again, thank you for dropping by, everyone. Let me switch over to the big camera. Hello, it is I again, just in big, and let's save this, what I have here in Game Maker. And Lady Miss Liv says, have a good week, sorry for vanishing on you. Hey, no worries, really, it's a stream, people pop in and out. I'm absolutely not offended if people just go without notice or anything. It's okay, this is just what I'm saying. And I even got how many viewers? Oh my god, 11 still thank you so much for everyone who dropped by. So yes, I hope this was at least somewhat entertaining, maybe while you were doing something differently, coloring in mandalas or something. So, or cooking or whatever it was. Again, thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you for inviting me into your browser tab. Look at this, I'm completely dehydrated and I know why. And I'm still hungry despite having a Kinder bar before. Frank says, by the way, Blushy Face, look up Pixel Prophecy on YouTube for some really well-made videos. Oh yes, thank you so much. Of course, I'm more known on YouTube for my Ludum Dare post-mortems. I've heard they are very entertaining and people keep telling me some of them inspired them to start making games, which I feel is just the greatest honor there is, that my videos inspire some people to make games. So yeah, if you like entertaining videos on game jams and how horrible the experience can sometimes be for me, yeah, please check it out. The channel name on YouTube is Pixel Prophecy, just like this. So again, yeah, thank you, Frank, for doing my marketing or public relations. I'm so bad at self-promotion, so thank you so much. I followed that channel earlier. Oh cool, I like making games too, but I only made Twitch related chatbots tools at the moment. Yeah, whatever is fun to you. I mean, you don't have to make a full-fledged MMO RPG. Chatbots, again, I joked before when I was starting the stream, maybe I have some sort of a butt spot because always giggle at even the thought of a bot that just takes random chat strings and replaces some words with the word butts. Sometimes it gets lucky and it's really funny. And Frank says those videos are worth watching, and Blushy Face says you could add it to your panels. Well, of course, yeah, this makes sense. I mean, I have no idea what to put in the panels anyway. They always put it off for another week and say, yeah, next week before the stream I just fill in the panels, then I run late again, and I'm just happy that my microphone still works. So yeah, this is a good idea to put it in the panels. And Frank said, I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Exactly. And Lady Mischief says, I remember recommending Phil's videos to a friend. I told him to look for the ones where he's face palming or looking in distraught. Yeah, this is usually the thumbnail because I feel it encapsulates the entire experience of a game jam, because most of the time it's like this, oh my god, I have no idea what to do, and then you start coding and then, oh my god, it's nearly closely there where I want to have it, it's not even near there, then somehow you make it, and then you're, oh my god, I'm so happy that it's over. So this is essentially my game jam phase in a nutshell. Right, again, thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this horrible little obtuse programming stream. I hope it was somewhat entertaining, and see you next week. And again, have a great week, and may the unicorns watch over you. Cheers.